when a new brawler is released, either that brawler is extremely strong or balanced, so they don't need any balance change, or sometimes they're weak because they need a simple buff to help them keep up with the meta, but there's an interesting breed of brawlers that are bad in a special way. They cannot be rescued by a simple balance change, so they need a whole rework, aka overhaul. Unfortunately, the majority of Brawl Stars players, considering them Jimmies, do not even understand what a rework is. Basically, it's a list of balance changes that are meant to completely change how a character works, or sometimes they are meant to make them a little more fun, so we'll be looking at all the reworks Brawl Stars has done. First of all, the Meg rework. When Meg was released, she was an extremely strong brawler, so they nerfed her and she became very garbage. So, on the 25th of April 2023, they gave her an entire rework. First of all, she would start in her mecha form, her super would not charge automatically in 5 seconds like Jaeyoung nowadays. 3 aspects of her mecha form were nerfed: health, damage, super damage. Her meg form had the super charge rate nerfed, and in compensation, they made it so that the health decay would no longer be with the mecha form. She would now be able to restore health over time like a normal brawler, and no longer receives reduced healing from outside healing resources, because when she used to be in the mecha form, she would receive reduced healing. This rework made Meg climb up to the S tier because no longer would you have to grind to get your overpowered form. The rework was met with mixed reactions, but Meg mains really hated the rework because it completely changed the identity of their brawler. She used to be a fun brawler who needed effort to get to her strong form, but now she became a brawler who is already strong and can delete anyone with ease. So she got nerfed, became garbage, and then they decided to give her a second rework. Basically, on the 25th of June 2024, they would make it so that her attack would have double the projectiles, her range would be severely nerfed in the mecha form, and the damage would also be nerfed. The supercharge rate too, however, in compensation they would buff the health and the reload time by an amazing 0.4 seconds, and a gadget healing would be increased. Surprise, surprise! Meg became broken again because they shoved the mutation into her base kit. The rework was hated because it converted her to an extreme damage dealing tank counter, and now she sits as this boring legendary with 2 lives. Next up, we have the Chester rework. So, again, Chester on release was absurdly strong due to his Jawbreaker star power and extreme damage output. So, only a month after his release, he was hit with 6 harsh nerfs, got killed, and a lot of rework concepts appeared in Reddit. So, Brawl Stars finally decided, let's give this boy a little chance to shine. So, in the 25th of June 2024, they made it so that his attack would have a 4th sequence because that used to be a star power, and then that star power would now make the first bell deal double the damage. The rework made him go from the C or D tier to the A tier because the rework was perfect. It addressed his main problem, which was his weak damage output as a damage dealer. Though it was slightly hated for making Chester overpowered, so later they made the first attack deal 50% more damage, which made him go around the B and C tier. Overall, this would enter the Hall of Fame of one of the best reworks ever because it actually addressed the main issue of the brawler, without giving them some cheap giga buff. Unlike the next quote-unquote rework, which was for Frank, who sucked for 6 years straight, except that one time when he became the first brawler to have 10,000 HP. So, on the 25th of June 2024, they would make it so that the less health he had, the faster his hit speed, and it would give him a hypercharge. Consequently, Frank became the best brawler because his other stats were overtuned. Extreme health, extreme star powers and gadgets, and even the hypercharge was very easy to get, only needing 2 supers. The problem is, this wasn't even a rework. It didn't change the way Frank was played, unlike Chester, and Meg especially. This was just some sort of giga buff given to a bad brawler to hype up the community, and they used the word rework just for some extra fanciness. Of course, Frank got hit with a lot of nerfs, and especially in terms of his kit, just to make him a little more balanced. They shouldn't have called it a rework, honestly. They just used the word for some fanciness, and they should have thought about giving some compensational nerfs before the buff. Next up is Daryl, who is known for being the most inconsistent brawler in Brawl Stars. With over 40 balance changes, Daryl was a pain to balance. He was given his first rework in the 5th of December 2018. Yes, 2018. Daryl received another rework. So, first of all, they buffed his supercharge rate, and they gave him the automatic charging trait, but it took 20 instead of 30 seconds. And they would make it so that the steel hoop star power, as in the shield one, would last longer. In compensation, they would nerf his health, main attack damage, super damage, damage reduction of his steel hoop star power from 80 to 30. And the biggest nerf was making his super go from 23 tiles to 7. For reference, 23 is about half the range of Mandy's super. Daryl used to go across the map, and even that made him just a heist menace, because in the other game modes, the very long rolling would make him an inconsistent brawler. Daryl still sucked, staying in the F tier with his homie Frank. Next up, Brawl Stars reworked Daryl, quote-unquote rework, just Giga buff, in the 27th of August 2024, making him have 2 supers pretty much like Melody. This just made him a better tank assassin than he used to be, and it didn't change the way he was played because, as I said, he just became a better tank assassin. So, yeah, this was pretty much just like the Frank rework, a Giga buff, and of course he had to be nerfed afterwards, reducing his supercharge rate by 25% because he could cycle supers extremely easily. Now he's a solid brawler. The most recent rework is the Doug rework, making his fast fruit star power, instead of buffing the speed of an ally, it would make Doug regenerate full health after reviving an ally. The second thing is that he was giving the berry trait, as in when he would heal his teammates, he would charge his super. And the last thing is that his super would have extreme homing towards teammates so that you wouldn't waste it. Also, he got a hypercharge, which is pretty much like Archie's super. Whenever Doug would attack, the teammate would have the attack around themselves. This is an actual rework, because it will make Doug go from a bad support who needs to approach opponents to support his own teammates, to a support who just needs to stay nearby teammates because that's already what he does to heal them, and charge his super and actually help. I think this will be extremely overtuned, and it will demand some emergency nerfs, but Brawl Stars community just wants to see very bad brawlers being broken for a while, just to keep getting some videos and hype and stuff. The secondary rework, the Bull rework, just in simple words, made Pika wants to kill himself. First of all, his Stomper gadget would make the next super stun, which doesn't fit Bull. His super range will be adjustable, and he would automatically stop at the nearest opponent, the first opponent he crashes onto, and just use Stomper. This lowered the skill cap of Bull, making the chaining of supers literally impossible, which is one of the core parts of Bull according to Pika. Legends say the rework was done to make Bull's skill floor higher, as in making him easier to pick up, and lowering his skill ceiling, as in making him even easier to master, which really hurt Bull mains but benefited the casual players. So what's the takeaway from all of this after analyzing the reworks? I believe Brawl Stars should stay away from reworks. They do not know how to do them. They just mostly give giga buffs to bad brawlers just to hype up the community with the mindset of the longer the brawler sucked, the longer they should stay broken. And unfortunately, the community followed the mindset too, except some specific specimen like me. So, yeah, Brawl Stars should stop doing giga buffs and actually take a bit of time to doing their reworks instead of just rushing to hype the community. They should leave it to other games who know how to cook better. That's it for the video. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!